Good afternoon. My name is Matt Wilson. I'm a reporter with AIM Media. I'm here today with Congressman Vicente Gonzalez. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Congressman Gonzalez is running for Texas's 34th congressional district in November. There's lots of background on this race. Filemon Vela, who previously served as congressman of that district, retired earlier this year. It was taken by Republican Mayra Flores in a special election this summer. Mr. Gonzalez currently serves as congressman for District 15, but is this cycle running in the freshly redrawn 34th district. Important to note that Ms. Flores won it with the district's old boundaries, which could have significant political implications. This conversation is part of a series of talks featuring candidates being put on by AIM Media, Futuro RGV, the McAllen Citizens League, and the League of Women Voters. Conversations will be posted on the Monitor social media as well as Futuro RGV social media. Congressman, how are you today?
Good. Enjoying the day.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Working hard.
Thanks for being here. I'm sure you're busy.
Yeah.
First off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Congress?
Well, so I've been in Congress 3 terms now. I started serving 2017, and I'm running for my 4th term. For over 20 years, I practiced law here as a civil litigator in South Texas, taking on some of the largest corporations in courtrooms and boardrooms and working for working class families right here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I just took that fight to Washington. And that's what we've been doing in D.C., trying to bring the federal resources to the region. In the last 6 years, I brought over $6 billion right here to South Texas, to the Rio Grande Valley, funding that we're seeing in our infrastructure, our schools. We were able to keep our businesses open during the pandemic and really have gone through some of the most complicated times in modern history. And I'm not finished doing my job.
You know, you're going to be doing your job if you win, but you're going to be moving east to a district that mostly encompasses Cameron County. Tell me what you've learned about that district. How does it differ from your previous one?
Well, first of all, over 200,000 people that I represent now will be in that district. Over about 250,000 people in Hidalgo County will be in this 34th district, including my home, right? And I have all of Cameron, all of Willacy, Kennedy, and Clayburgh. It's a beautiful district where the border meets the coast and just right to south of Corpus Christi. It's the community in Brownsville and Harlingen. I mean, they're beautiful communities. They're very similar to Hidalgo County. I mean, we're a region. And I always say when we were in Washington, people didn't ask if you were from McAllen or Weslaco or Harlingen or Brownsville. They just considered it the Rio Grande Valley. And that's the way Congressman Vela and myself and Congressman Cuellar have considered it. And we work in a regional way, and we try to bring resources that improve everyone's lives.
Yeah, what would you say the 34th's biggest asset is, and what's the biggest challenge facing it?
Yeah, well, the biggest asset is the amazing, hardworking people and the youth that we have here in the Rio Grande Valley. We have one of the youngest communities in the country, so the potential for growth is unstoppable because of that. The challenges, well, we are on the border, and that's a real issue that we need to continue to deal with until it gets resolved. That's some of the challenges. We're growing very fast, so our infrastructure hasn't really kept up with the growth of the people. And we need more funding in that regard, and assure that we have, the best drainage system, the best roads and bridges, and that the schools are growing at the capacity of the people, and that we have a world-class education right here in South Texas.
You know, that's been something that we've heard come up a lot in these interviews, has been the asset being the people, and lots of it is young people, talking about UTRGV, the School of Medicine. Lots of that's in Hidalgo County. What assets in regards to higher ed do you think Cameron County?
There is a lot in Cameron County. Let me tell you. First of all, you have also UTRGV, and you have Texas Southmost College, a very good quality education that they're providing there in that community. You have a technical school in Harlingen, and you have SpaceX that's providing jobs and training a new generation of workers for that area. We probably have a future LNG out of that port. So there are a lot of great things happening in Cameron County. They're also a huge trade hub. I think regionally, we are one of the most powerful, potentially powerful places in the state if we continue this growth in a thoughtful way.
Yeah, I want to talk about SpaceX because I think that's one of the more interesting, I suppose, issues you'll inherit. People who support it say it's an economic dynamo that, I mean, I guess it has literally out of this world opportunities involved. And people who oppose it say that there's environmental impacts and that maybe it's not fair for people who live around it. Where do you stand on all that? And what do you think your role would be?
I'm not for impeding business and growth.
Right.
But we do need to have a balance and assure that things are done in a way that limit any kind of damage, obviously, to our environment. South Padre Island, I think, is a pearl for our communities here in South Texas, and we need to continue to protect it and preserve it and assure that it's there for generations to come. So as we welcome SpaceX, at the same time we hold them responsible to be responsible citizens here in our community and assure that whatever projects they take at this facility conform with our communities and conform to assure that we all continue safe and that our environment continues safe for generations to come as well.
Functionally, how do you do that? How do you ensure there's environmental accountability over there?
Right. So the EPA, they have to go through a lot of regulation to do everything they do. The Environmental Protection Agency is monitoring a lot of their projects. The Department of Energy monitors their project, the Department of Defense, the state regulatory agencies. They deal with a lot of oversight. It's not that easy.
Sure.
And if they commit a mistake, obviously they'll be held responsible. And I think that they know that.
You know, keeping up with the issues and preparing for this, I looked through your campaign website. There's two words I didn't see on there. I didn't see abortion or guns. Could you tell me about your stance in regards to both of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So on guns, you know, I believe in protecting the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner. I like to hunt and fish.
Sure.
But I also believe in responsible gun ownership. I believe in red flag laws. I think if you have a history of domestic violence, I wouldn't sell you a gun. I think if you have a history of violence in general, we need to take a closer look at you and see if you've really reformed. And I'm okay with waiting periods. I own all kinds of weapons. And if you told me when I went to purchase it at a store that I had to wait 2 weeks or 30 days, I'm okay with that. And I'm also okay with limiting magazine capacity. There's no reason we need these long clips with 100 bullets. If you hunt, if you usually don't get it in your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth shot,
right,
you're either you need to get into some other sport, right? So I don't see why you'd need more than 6 bullets in a clip. And I think those are real thoughtful ideas. I'm also for these like safety, they're like baby safety springs that you put on these clips. So it takes about a minute to undo it and take it out and put a new one and screw it back in, or 2 minutes.
Sure.
That would slow down an active shooter in a tragedy. And I think those are ideas that would bring more security to the American people.
Sure. What about abortion?
So on abortion, you know, I'm Catholic, I'm Christian. I don't think anyone is pro-abortion. But the laws that we have enacted lately here in the state of Texas that prevent a woman who has been raped or a woman who's going through very hard health issues at the hospital and cannot get an abortion, I think is wrong. We have a story of a 13-year-old little girl here in Texas that was raped by her grandfather and impregnated by her grandfather. And I think it's a real shame that in the state of Texas, we can't provide health care for that young lady. And she has to go to another state to get it. I find that offensive and taking women back to the Stone Age.
How would you advocate for that? I mean, would you aim to codify Roe versus Wade, or?
Yeah, I think we need it. I think we need it for the protection of women. Nobody promotes abortion, but it's something that should be available, it should be safe, and it should be rare.
Yeah, I want to kind of go back to guns, but I suppose this is more of an education question. I know education is big for you. After Uvalde, the tragedy there, everyone's looking for an answer, something we can do. What do you think the best way to improve safety and security at schools is? And how would you go about doing it?
Yeah. So first of all, we need to have trained law enforcement at every school. We need to have a security plan where there's only one entrance to a school with a security officer at the entrance. Maybe we need to consider metal detectors. Schools should be just as safe as airports. And we have the resources to make it happen. I think those are good ideas, and that would permanently prevent another Uvalde from occurring.
You know, I guess lots of our smaller districts in the valley maybe don't have the resources to build all that. How do you get the funding for innovation?
So the federal government, there's several proposals at the federal level to fund that type of security plans for schools across the country.
Keeping with education, you support fully funding pre-K and Head Start programs. Over the summer, the federally funded Hidalgo County Head Start program went through, I think, what you could justifiably call a crisis in leadership. The executive director was terminated. Some other representatives on the council were removed and reinstated. One resigned in the middle of a meeting. It looked dysfunctional. Do you think Head Start programs in the Valley need more oversight? And if so, what would you do to work towards that?
Yeah, so my job is to bring the resources down to the Valley, right? And we hope to bring, there needs to be responsible leadership at the local level to assure that those resources are spent wisely and in the best interest of the children in our community. And that's a local issue that needs to be addressed at a local level, but certainly we need to have top quality people handling these resources when we bring them down.
Sure. I want to stick with education. You were mentioning some of the assets that you have in the district you're running for. What do you think they need there next? I mean, I know people have talked about a law school in the Valley. What do you think is coming or should come?
You know, I'm open for all types of education. We need to expand our medical facilities, our engineering schools, our medical schools. A law school would be good for the Valley. There's no need for our, young students to have to move out of town or move out of the region to get a law education. I think they could do it right here. So I think expanding all types of college level and university level education, having more postgraduate programs where people can get their PhDs here and become a dentist here in South Texas, and certainly more nursing programs. We have a huge nursing shortage here in South Texas, and the whole country does, but especially here in South Texas, we've been impacted by the nursing shortage since the pandemic. We need to train more highly qualified nurses.
Sure, and I know the university has had success with that. They've been moving towards that and getting students graduated without lots of debt.
That's very nice.
And I know you've had a role in that. Tell me about it.
Yep. So I've been leading the charge on student loan forgiveness, and a lot of people don't agree with that. My proposal was $25,000. And the reason is, if you go and and I'm giving you a pre-pandemic numbers, I know those numbers have changed a little bit, but pre-pandemic, a high school graduate in America was earning between $18,000 and $24,000 a year and was paying about $2,000 in taxes. With just 2 years of education, you would bring them up to about a $50,000 a year bracket, and they're paying about $5,000 to $10,000 in taxes. So that $25,000 investment we recover in the first 5 years, and we have a more educated public, a more educated workforce in the country. It's an investment. It's not a freebie, and it's not a giveaway. You're educating the American workforce and the American people. They're producing more. They're paying more revenues into taxes. It's a win-win situation. And other countries are already doing this.
Right.
Germany, some of the Nordic countries, some Asian countries are doing it. We have states in the United States that are doing it. And it's just a good investment to invest in the people.
Economically, what do you think something like that would do for the Valley?
It would be an economic booster. It would attract more industry if you have a more educated workforce. There are a lot of manufacturers, a lot of highly technical industries out there that look for places with educated workforces to establish themselves. And the more we educate our communities, the more opportunities to invite that type of investment into our area.
Going back big picture, I know you've been doing this for a while. What do you think? What's your proudest accomplishment in your legislative record so far?
Yep, that's a great question. Well, bringing $6 billion to my district, I'm very proud of. But I'm going to tell you one of my worst days and best days in Congress.
Sure.
And that was on January 6th, the day that the Capitol was attacked. I was in the chamber that day, and got to witness the most horrific day in American history, I believe, certainly in modern history, when this happened. And our Capitol Police were out there, you know, on hand-to-hand combat. They had us in a private, secret location while this was going on. This started around 3 o'clock. And that night, they wanted us to vote remotely because there was still a lot of insecurity on the streets. And our speaker said, hell no, we're going to go in there and we're going to do it in person. And at 3:30 in the morning, I went in there with all of my colleagues, still under all kinds of instability around the city, and certified that election to assure there was a peaceful transition of power, and our community and our democracy continued. And to me, that was my biggest accomplishment. That was the one I am most proud of, to be a part of a moment in history when our democracy was at the highest risk.
You know, talking about politics, it feels like lots of these national politics have come up in the Valley for the first time in a long time. I know that right now your opponent is running attack ads against you, criticizing your work as an attorney. Would you care to respond to those?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, I was never known as a criminal lawyer. I did very few criminal cases. I think it was less than 1% of my casework over my 20 years of practice. Here in South Texas, if you want to keep a federal license, you have to do at least one a year that they assign you, which is the one they were talking about, that our federal judge in Hosa assigned to me during my practice. So it's falsehood. It's a smear campaign with money coming from Washington and Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi and Kentucky. Those are not investments from our community attacking me. These are out-of-state resources coming in here and just smearing lies all over. And it is what it is.
You know, that's millions of dollars coming down here. I see it on the TV, their ads, the Republicans' ads. Do you think that the Democratic Party has focused on this area enough, or do you think that they've erred, perhaps?
Well, I've been critical of the Democratic Party, certainly in that special election. I thought a lot more could have been done, and we should have invested a lot heavier. I was advocating for that in Washington, and I think a lot more should and could be done by the Democratic Party. By the National Party, the state party doesn't have the resources, nowhere near the resources that the DTRIP or the DNC has, but certainly South Texas needs some heavy, long-term infrastructure investment from the party.
You know, Myra won that election. It feels like that's energized conservatives locally. How big of a gaffe do you think that was, and how bad is it hurting your election and others in the area?
Yeah, well, we need to realize, first of all, that she won by less than 1%.
Sure.
They invested over $2 million in a very different district as well, but they invested over $2 million, and she won by less than 1%, where the other candidates had no money, and she'd been campaigning for 2 years. So it certainly wasn't the success that they try to promote. That they're trying to create this narrative out there that's false. Now, are there more Republicans voting, more people voting Republican than ever before? Probably, but I'll tell you, even at the highest voting rate of Republicans in our district here in the Rio Grande Valley, we still won with 58%. So that's still far from a success story.
You know, it's a different district she's running in now. Can you talk about that and the implications it has?
Yes. So obviously the prior district ran all the way to Victoria. It had B County, it had San Patricio County, I think it had Victoria. It had a lot of very red counties on the north end of it. The new district is certainly much more of a Democratic district. It has eastern Hidalgo County, all of, as I mentioned, all of Cameron up to Clayburgh. So it also has a much more moderate Democrat kind of voter.
Sure. You know, it's a bitter campaign. It's ugly. Last week, Ms. Flores characterized these elections in South Texas not as politics. She said that they are more of a contest between good and evil, and I don't think she put you in the good category. You've got a very real chance of having, if you win, having Monica win here in District 15, and you might have to work with a Republican. How do you think you can find common ground with these people to bring resources to South Texas?
Well, that's a great question. I already do work with a lot of Republicans.
Sure.
I'm part of a group called the Problem Solvers Caucus, and we're 58 members strong. We're 29 Democrats and 29 Republicans, and we get together every week and work on proposals that most of America can agree with. And these are not the 58 members that you're going to find on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. And I always say in Washington, you're either a workhorse or a show horse, and
right.
I happen to be a workhorse. So we get together and talk about common sense solutions, things that we can agree in, taking care of our veterans, taking care of our seniors, assuring they have Social Security and Medicare that keeps up with high rising costs, investments in infrastructure and education, making sure generations of tomorrow have a better opportunity than we've had ourselves. And I think that's what most Americans want. I know my opponent uses the term God, family, country. Well, I don't debate those issues. I think we're all for God and family and country. I'm a Christian Catholic. I believe in God. I have a family I love. The United States is my country, a country that my family has gone to war for. And I don't think those issues are for debate. And this campaign is much more complex than a bumper sticker slogan. And that's why I've been asking for debate. I think we should have a debate. And we should talk about policy issues that impact the lives of people here in our region.
Why do you think Ms. Flores doesn't want to debate you?
Well, that's a good question. I think the public knows why she doesn't want to debate me. I think she would have to answer some very difficult questions that I'm here answering now. Right? In a public forum where our entire community and voters have an opportunity to hear both sides. I think, out of respect to the voters and to our district, we should be debating. This is a new district with new voters that don't know either of us in certain areas, and we should have an opportunity to talk to them, and they should have an opportunity to ask us questions.
Wonderful. Congressman, I think that's all I've got for you. If you want to say anything else?
Thank you. Well,
We've got some time.
I guess I'll close saying it's an honor. It's been an honor to represent you for the last 6 years. I intend to keep working for you for the next few more years, and I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I'm here for you. So my doors are always open. Thank you, and God bless.
Wonderful. Again, this conversation was part of a series of talks that will be posted on the social media of The Monitor and Futuro RGV. Thank you.
Thank you.